What's going on YouTube, and welcome to another Call of Duty video. In this video, we'll be going over the best console settings for Modern Warfare 3 and Warzone. So if you guys are into that, be sure to like and subscribe, turn those notifications on so you guys don't miss out on any other videos. And let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, when it comes to console settings, we're very limited on what we use, but there are some crucial settings that you should have, especially if you're new to Warzone or you're new to Modern Warfare 3. These are things that you want to pay attention to. If you played other Call of Duties, maybe these don't matter or you already have these settings. So I'm just keep that in mind when you guys are watching this video. Some things you might already know, some things you might not. But if you're new to the game or a beginner and need some settings for console, this is the video for you. So we're going to start out with graphics settings because I think that is very important. And we're going to start with on-demand texture streaming. I have that off for better performance. If you want your game to look better, you can turn this on, but we want the most performance possible. We also have a 120 hertz monitor, so we are playing on 120 hertz. And if you guys stay tuned to the end of the video, I will show you exactly how to enable this. If you do have a 120 hertz monitor with the PS5 and it does not work for you, there are some things that you guys can do to make sure this works. World motion blur, weapon motion blur, you want that off. You don't want any type of blurring in a multiplayer game where you're playing online against other players. These are type of things that you may turn on if you're playing the campaign. Same with field grain and depth of field. To have these off, if you're playing multiplayer or Warzone. If you're playing a campaign and like nostalgia, maybe it looks better, maybe it looks cooler like a movie, you can turn these on. But if you're playing multiplayer or playing any type of game online against other players, I recommend that these are off at all times. Fidelity CSS is on with a strength of 100. I just think it makes the game look better. If you're having performance issues or you want maybe a little bit more FPS, maybe turn this off. But I just think it makes the game look a lot better. So that's why I have mine on at 100%. 120 hertz for refresh rate, have this on if it's available to you. And my field of view is 120. Anything above 100, this is more personal preference, but I just like the way it feels at 120. But anything over 100 is what I would recommend. I would not go below 100 if you can. And also, you want your ADS field of view on affected. Weapon field of view, you want on wide or default. Now, effect is very important for long range engagements. It's going to just feel stickier with the aim assist. So make sure this is on affected instead of independent, especially if you are playing with a controller. First person camera movement, you want least. Third person camera movement, you want least. You don't want your camera shaking all around. So do not put this on default at 100%. Least is the way to go. Inverted flashbang, this is more of a personal preference. Left side is what a normal flashbang looks like. Right side is what it would be if it was inverted. I personally like it off. I feel like it doesn't bother me as much. As far as brightness, you can have this at 50% as default. I have mine at 55 just to see like dark corners would be a little bit brighter. So if you come across a really dark corner and someone like shot you and they killed you in it, then maybe you turn up the brightness so that way next time that happens to you in a really dark corner, they'll be easier to see. Okay. So that's kind of how you want to judge that. Safe area, you want to bring this in. Normally it's all the way out. You want to bring this in all the way. And that way, when the mini map is going to be brought closer to the center of the screen, everything's going to be closer to the center of the screen when it comes to the user interface. So like your mini map, your gun, all that good stuff is be closer to the center of the screen. That way, when you are looking at your target, you can still see the mini map. And if you see red dots in the mini map flanking you, you can see that while you're mid engagement with another player, because it's easier to glance an eye over at a corner that's not all the way in the very corner. It's moved in towards the middle a little bit so you guys can see it a lot better when you guys are in engagements or just running around the map and you're looking at your crosshairs, seeing what's going on. You could like just glance to the top left and see that mini map. You see a red dot and you can see where someone's coming from. I think that's very crucial. I think everyone should have their safe area brought in towards the center of the screen just a little bit. So that's what I do, and that is it for graphics. When it comes to interface, I don't think there's much. Subtitles are off. Color customization, I don't mess with that, but you could if you want to. And if I were to mess with it, I would probably mess with like the world stuff when it comes to the world, which I have on filter 2. So I have my color filter on filter 2, and I have color filter target on both. So not world or interface, but both. So filter 2, both. And it looks pretty good so far. I like the way it looks. There it is. Minimap must be on square. This should be default now, I think. Minimap rotation is on. Personal preference, personal preference. Static crosshairs. I like static. I don't want my crosshairs getting larger as I'm running or getting smaller as I'm standing still. I just like the crosshairs to be there and be static. So they're not gonna be moving, they're not gonna be changing sizes, nothing like that. My standard dot I do have on, and I have mine set to default. So you could have the largest one on the very right, or you could have the larger one in the middle, or the default one, whatever you prefer. I just like to see the center of the screen at all times. Could help with like no scope, stuff like that. And centering your target when you're turning corners, you know where your aim is going to go when you aim in. So that's going to make it easier as well. When it comes to my controller settings, I do play on flips. So L1 and R1 to shoot. My stick layout is default. Controller vibration, I recommend I have off. Trigger effects off. And dead zone inputs are very crucial. You can actually test your dead zone. When you go to test your dead zone, make sure that these numbers are all at 0. So if they're at 0 when you're not touching the controller, that means your dead zones are good. If they are not at 0, that means your dead zones are bad. So turn them down, turn them up. As long as they're at 0 when they are resting and you are not touching the sticks, you are good. Left stick max is 100, right stick max is 100. That's the way I've been rocking it for a long time. That's the way I'm going to keep it. Aiming, I play on a 6.6 with an ADS of a 0.8, and that's just because when I'm ADS, I want more control over it. I want to slow down a little bit. When it comes to ADS, though, if you're like trying to target somebody or trying to track them and they're running, and you feel like you can't track them with the 0.8 while you're ADS, turn that up a little bit, you'd be good. Or if you're tracking, or if you're overcompensating and you're tracking too fast, turn that down. And that's kind of how you'll find the perfect ADS sensitivity for you. When you're ADSing, trying to track somebody who is running, that's the best way to test it on what you want to work with, okay? Nothing else I really touched. Dynamic is going to be your aim response curve type. This is the best aim response curve type in the game. You definitely want dynamic, especially for controller player when you're playing on a controller, you know. Dynamic is the best. This is a controller setting. Linear and standard, okay. I would say standard, but I don't think linear is that good at all, really. And that's just at 1.0. Don't really change that. Target aim assist, you want that. And aim assist type, Black Ops or default, whichever one you feel like you are best with, that's the one I would run. I think they're both viable and very good. Automatic tactical sprint, slide, maintain sprint is going to be on. It's going to just give you the most fluid type of like flight canceling around the map and stuff like that. So definitely have that on. Tac sprint behaviors, single tap run, ground mantle off, automatic airborne off, automatic ground mantle off, tap to slide. You don't want just slide only for Warzone because you want to be able to dive off of buildings and like go from building. If you have the dive, it tremendously like increases the range that you can actually parachute. So definitely don't recommend slide only. I like being able to still dive until they can make it to where we can separate the buttons. That's the way I'm rocking. Plunging underwater is free. Parachute auto deploy is off. And just keep in mind, these settings are for console. So like those that have other options on PC with certain controllers, those are not an option on console. So if I see those in the comments, you know, that's why, okay? Sprinting door bash on, ledge climb behavior is mantle only, aim down sight behavior, hold, spring. Everything else is pretty much the same. Prioritize interact. I want to pick up my weapons. I want to pick up ammo, good stuff like that. So always prioritize interact for Warzone. And for multiplayer, you probably want to do reload. Armor plate behavior, we have apply all. And manual fire behavior, we have on press. And then they also have one for a hold. Hold is only good if you use burst weapons. Otherwise, it's not that good. Now, the last settings I would go over would be the audio mix. I would recommend either headphone-based boost or home theater. I like home theater 100%. My gameplay, music volume is 0, dialogue 30, voice chat 40, cinematic 0, and war tracks at 30. Everything else pretty much does not matter. Now, one last thing, if you guys are trying to access the 120 hertz on your PlayStation, and for some reason you know you have a 120 hertz monitor, make sure your HDMI port that is put into is capable of 120 hertz. Sometimes it's the display port that is 120 hertz, not the HDMI. So that could be why. But if your HDMI does support the 120 hertz, this is something else that you can try. Go to your settings and go down to your saved data and game app settings and make sure your game preset is set to performance mode. If this is not set to performance mode, sometimes it won't allow you to get the 120 hertz. On top of that, when you go to screen and video, make sure it does actually support it and test it. And that way you guys will know if it supports the 120 hertz. 120 hertz I have set to automatic, but if you go to test, it'll find out right now. If you go to test 1440 or whatever, it will tell you how many hertz is supported on that monitor. Okay. And as you guys can see, my resolution is 1920 by 1080 at 120 hertz. And that's because I'm in the game. So once you launch the game, it will say that. When you're on the main menu or you close the game, it will always go back to 60 hertz. And that's why your screen will go black. But when you launch the game, your screen goes black, and that's when it's switching to the 120 hertz. So keep that in mind. Anyways, if you guys did enjoy this video, please leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe if you're new and turn those notifications on so you guys don't miss out on the next video. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.